Okay, here we're going to learn how to set the line spacing between the lines of text within an individual paragraph and change the amount of spacing between paragraphs themselves, multiple paragraphs. And this will make a lot more sense once you see it in practice, so let's just go ahead and get started. Now again, line spacing is the amount of space between the lines of text in a paragraph. And on the desktop version of Microsoft Word, I am used to using keyboard shortcuts. Single space is Control 1 and double space is Control 2. And 99.99% of the time that I am working on a document and I'm changing my line spacing, my options are going to be one of those two right there, either single spacing or double spacing. Now there are some other options that are available to you, but those are pretty much the only ones that I ever use. So what we're going to do is we're going to use this same Books Beyond document, and what we're going to do is we're going to place the insertion point in the first paragraph under the acknowledgement heading. So we're just going to click somewhere right in here in this document, and what we're going to do is we're going to change the line spacing to single. Now what I want to do is I want to see if this works, because I really don't know. On my keyboard I want to hold down the Control button, and well, that's not what I want to do. I want to hold down the Control button and hit the 1 key. And try it one more time. Okay, that's not working. That's something that I'm used to, and a lot of others. You may already be aware of that keyboard shortcut, but apparently it does not work in the online version of Microsoft Word. So what you have to do is you have to come up here, and you can come back to this dialog box launcher for the paragraph options, and you can change your line spacing from double to single. And then click OK. And you see how this text is suddenly closer together. Okay? And this document by default comes to you provided, and it is double spaced. Now if you want to see that again, we can come down here to the second paragraph, and instead of clicking the dialog box launcher, you can see this button that is right here. It's your line spacing button. If you click on that, you can come down here and select 1, and you get the same result. And on the desktop version, that button does exist. Now again, the keyboard shortcuts don't work, or that particular keyboard shortcut doesn't work on the online version, but it does everywhere else. Now let's say we wanted to go back and get all of these paragraphs back to double spacing, and we actually do. We could select both of these paragraphs at the same time, and I'm doing this for a reason. If you select multiple paragraphs at the same time, whatever formatting changes that you apply will be applied to all of those paragraphs. So we're going to come back here, and I want to go to the line spacing, and I want to change that to 2. And again, you see how both of these paragraphs are changed back to double space. And again, because this file is already in your OneDrive account, the changes to the file are automatically saved, although to this point we really haven't made any changes because we just went from double space to single space and then back. Alright, so the next thing we're going to do is to modify the line spacing in a paragraph and give it a specific size. Now me personally, I can't think of too many circumstances where I've ever had to do this. So what we're going to do is we want to come under and select these 4 paragraphs under this acknowledgement section, which is right here. And let me close this out so we can see just a little bit more of my screen. Alright, so we've selected these 4 paragraphs by clicking, holding, and dragging. And what we're going to do is we're going to go under our line spacing options. And if you click on this arrow right here on the line spacing button, notice down here you've got line spacing options, and if you click on it, it'll take you back to that same dialog box launcher that we were using previously. So it doesn't matter which method that you use. And what we want to do in the spacing section, so over here, we want to select exactly. So down here where it says line spacing, you've got this option. And actually what they're wanting us to do here it is not available. And again, this is one of those things that I don't always know until I open it up. This is not something, this particular step we cannot do, and that's all right. But in the Windows version, or the desktop version, let me just open this up and show you. I want to click Open in Desktop App. If I were to come here and select these 4 paragraphs again, you would be able to come up here, and here's your button in the desktop version, and see where it says line spacing options. And then over here you've got an option of exactly. So again, this step right here we cannot do. I'll just change it. Now look, if you've got the desktop version, you can do that, but then in this case you're just making it something very specific. Now all I would have to do is to save these changes, and then if I wanted I could close this out. But we're going to be right back here. And again, I just want you to know the differences. And if on an assignment that I'm going to grade, if I have y'all to do something like that I've actually accidentally overlooked and it's not in the online version, don't worry about it, because let me know that you can't do it and I'll verify. It's still good information to know. All right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to work on changing the paragraph spacing. So again, what we did here is we changed the spacing between the lines of an individual paragraph. Now what we're going to do is change the spacing between each individual paragraph compared to the other paragraph. So what we want to do is we want to select the entire document. Now I'm going to try a keyboard shortcut of Control A to select all. Now that keyboard shortcut does work. You could also click, hold, and drag to select all of this, but Control A will select all. So the next thing we want to do is we want to change the in the spacing before section. So what we need to do is come back here to the paragraph dialog box launcher and click on that. And we want to change the spacing before to 24 points. Now, by default here in the online version, it's 0 point, meaning that there is no additional extra space placed in between or before a paragraph, before a new paragraph. We want to change that to 24. And this is called a spinner button. You can also just type in 24 and hit enter. And when you click OK, look what happens. It's going to take a second or two, but you see how we've got this extra space before each paragraph. So as you scroll through this, you can see this. And by the way, these lines right here indicate where a page break would be. Where this text right here is actually, it would be on page 2 as this document is right now. All right, so then the next thing we want to do is, if you have to reselect the entire document, go ahead and do Control A again to select all, or you can click, hold, and drag. What we want to do, and what we want to do is we want to remove the spacing before the paragraph. So I want to come back here, come back to paragraph options, and in the desktop version you can actually make this, there's a button that says remove spacing before, but here we just have to take this back and make it say 0 points. So you can click in there and just put in a 0 and hit enter or click OK, and it's going to take that additional spacing back out. So again, that's the difference between the online version and the desktop version. Then they want you to place the insertion point in the heading for acknowledgement. So all they want you to do is to click up here. And you don't have to select it, because as of right now it looks like you're only going to make change to this one paragraph. So what we want to do is we want to change the spacing after to 12 points. So you can come back and go under click the dialog box launcher, and down here by default, or at least on this document, there's 6 points, additional points of space, which is about 1/12 of an inch. Now we want to double this by changing it to 12, and when we change this to 12 point, we're going to have an additional we're going to have a 1/6 of an inch of space between the word acknowledgement and then this paragraph below it. And you'll see it when I hit enter or when I click OK. You see how this moved down just a little bit, and you can look at it and tell there's a little bit additional space between this paragraph and that paragraph. Now remember, one of the things that I told you is that it really or maybe I didn't tell you, but it really doesn't matter too much whether or not you're putting additional space before or after a paragraph. Typically you would want to do one or the other, but I don't know why in the world you'd want to do both. That just adds additional space between it. But remember, I told you in the previous lesson that a point is defined, it's 1/72nd of an inch. Again, 1 point is 1/72nd of an inch. So if you're talking about size 12 points or 0.12 spacing, that is 12/72nd of an inch. So that's 1/6 of an inch. If you were to make something that's size 72 font and print it out on paper and take a ruler to it, if it's a letter like the capital letter E that should go from the top of the line to the bottom of the line, it should be exactly 1 inch tall. So remember, a point is 1/72nd of an inch. All right, so now what we want to do is this time we're going to use the Format Painter to repeat this last step that we just did for all of the headings. So we want to come up here, and because we had clicked in this paragraph, and the other thing I want to remind you of is a paragraph is essentially anytime you hit enter. So I can come back here and then you see and click the show and hide button, and then you see all the places where enter was hit to format this document. We want to come back here and click the Format Painter button, and then I want to scroll down here and I just want to click on top of this, and you see how it changed that font size just a little bit as well. And then I would have to click in the online version, I'd have to click the Format Painter button again and scroll down and click right here, and you get a little bit of additional space added. Then I'd have to click Format Painter with the insertion point in that paragraph, and then I'd have to come down here and repeat the process. And again, you see how this changed just ever so slightly in format. And then the next thing we want to do is we want to go and select all of the other paragraphs, and we want to change the spacing after to 6 point. And again, this is going to be a little bit more of a pain to complete in the online version because, again, this is not the full version, but we could come back here and select these 4 paragraphs, and it's actually already 0.6. And let's just verify that these are 0.6. They are. It looks like they are all 0.6. And again, I'm going by the textbook that's for the certification class, and again, there's some little glitches and whatnot, but just note that that's how that you change the spacing before and after a paragraph, and change the spacing within the lines of an individual paragraph. So all you need to do now, there's nothing to save because it's on your OneDrive account, and we are ready to move on to the next activity.